Hello, Northwest Arkansas. Welcome to Bird's Eye View Real Estate in Northwest Arkansas. I'm your host, Nick Limbird, with my co-host, Miss Tara Limbird of Limbird Real Estate Group. How are you this morning, Tara?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah.
Good deal. What are we going to be talking about today?
Today we are going to be talking about a very important topic, and it's how to choose a real estate agent to sell your home.
Oh, this is going to be a good one. And I think we're going to focus a lot on the listing side today. So not necessarily the buyer side, but the listing. How to find that right listing agent, huh?
Right. Yeah. Very, very important task for sure.
Okay, great. Well, for those that don't know, I'd like to welcome you to the show. And we are Nick and Tara Limbird of Limbird Real Estate Group. Tell us a little bit about Limbird Real Estate Group and where they can find some information.
Well, we have over 100 years of combined experience. I started in the business 16 years ago, and our team has been around for over 10 years now. We've sold more than 3,000 homes in Northwest Arkansas. So hopefully all that knowledge we can compact it here each and every single week and bring something of value to you guys. But if you want to get a hold of us, if you have questions, go to our website, limbirdteam.com, our Facebook page, facebook.com/Limbird.
Well, and I would think with over 3,000 homes, quite a few of those are listing, so we ought to have some pretty good content today.
Yes, we've got lots of stories to tell. Some we can't share on just more of a one-on-one over a beer or something, but lots of good stories.
Or a cup of coffee. So,
there you go, for sure.
Well, we always like to start the show off with a positive moment. We've had a pretty interesting event here inside of our team here the past week or so.
We have a future Limbird in training.
What's going on?
Well, Brad Aldrain on our team, him and his wife Jessica just had their first baby.
Yeah,
first little girl.
And got some of the chubbiest cheeks I've ever seen.
I know, she's adorable.
Extremely cute. So
yeah, definitely. So her name's Collins.
Have his hands full, but he'll need to sell a lot of real estate to support that one, I'm
For sure. Yes, her name is Collins, and she's a cutie, and so I just welcome her to our extended family.
Sure. Well, we also have the best of the best going on out there in Northwest Arkansas. You want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, for sure. It's really a lot of fun. Each and every year, several of the magazine and newspaper publications kind of put out the best of each company in their industries. Best of the best definitely seems to be one of the biggest that goes on in Northwest Arkansas. It's put on by the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, and we would love your votes. All you do is go to votebestnwa.com/Limbird. And it's really cool. They've made it really convenient for you. We have been nominated in a lot of categories. Nominated for Best Company, Best Team, Best Agent, Best Customer Service, and we also have a property management team that's been nominated, Metro Property Management, and our closing company, Harbor Closing Company. But when you go to votebestnwa.com/Limbird, you can just go check, and check off all 6 of those and hit done, and boom. And you can even vote once a day, Nick.
All right, once a day, and sounds very simple. Everybody likes simple.
Yes, so. Absolutely.
Well, all righty. Well, let's kick our show off with a little game. I think we've been given some questions, and you want to start with the first one?
Yeah, for sure. We'll just kind of rapid fire it around, but the first question is of Nick and myself. Who is older?
Well, I'll let you answer that one.
Well, Nick says I'm a cougar because I am 13 months older than him. But my mom was also 13 months older than my dad, which I thought was pretty ironic. So there you go.
It's pretty ironic. So who has more siblings? I think that's going to be me. I've got 2 brothers and 2 sisters.
Yes, yeah. And I was an only child for 13 years, and then my sister came along. So I am the older sister.
Yep. All righty. I'm going to leave this one to you. When you first met, who made the first move on the date?
I think it was definitely you.
Oh, I don't know about that. I remember you not being able to keep your hands off of it.
Oh, yeah, that was totally it.
A lot like nowadays anyway, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So, I'm just kidding. So the next one, I'm going to let you answer that. Or ask
who is the
one.
better driver? Well, I know for sure that you will say it's you. But if you base it off of tickets or accidents, then it would be me. Because I have, knock on wood, have not had a speeding ticket or anything in 10, 15, 20 years, and I know that's not the case with you.
Well, I have had a few because I've got places to be in a quick time frame.
Yeah.
But I will tell you this, you're one of the worst breakers I've ever seen in my life. Every time I ride with you, I have to go to the chiropractor to get an adjustment to my neck and back.
I get the job done, you know.
I've never seen so many close-up license plates in my life. So we'll that one, we may have to take that one to a jury and have them figure that one out. There you go. So, the next one is, who's been in more car accidents?
I've only been in like 2 or 3, but they're all just been minor fender benders.
Same for me. I think I've been 2. Well, actually 3. I had one where it was minor fender bender. I ran in the back of somebody in some ice, and then Actually got hit in the ice, T-boned somebody who
Wow.
came across 3
You don't need
lanes.
to be driving in the ice.
No,
apparently.
I need to stay home in the cold. So
For sure.
All right.
Who studied the hardest in school?
Well, I'll let you take that one.
That's an easy one.
Well,
Me.
You got the better grades, but sometimes when you got my brains, you just kind of can coast and make it through. So,
Well, making it through was, what was your GPA again?
hey, I'm graduated in 4 years. So
There you go. Who got better grades?
Well, we just
Me.
touched on that
yeah.
one,
I think
but,
I got straight A's from 5th grade all the way through high school.
yeah. Well, I think a lot of that comes to my street smarts more so than grades.
Yeah, you keep telling yourself
Yeah.
that.
So the next one, who is smarter?
Me.
Oh, I don't know. That's I'll go with that just to keep the marriage rolling along.
There you go.
But,
I'm sure there'll be one here I'll compromise
yeah.
on.
So who is more creative? I think we're both have a pretty good creative streak, and
Yeah.
kind of depends on certain elements. But
You know, it's funny, that question, my whole life I've always said, oh, I'm not creative, I'm not creative, I'm not creative. But in my mind, creative was artistic, painting and drawing and crocheting and things like that. But I think when I think of creativity in terms of running a business and marketing, that I definitely put myself in that category. Even though for years I'm like, oh, I'm not creative. So
okay. Next one, who's better at keeping surprises?
that would probably be you.
You think?
Yeah, 'cause-
Okay.
Because I feel like if I buy like a Christmas present, if I go and buy something like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited, they're really going to like this, I want to give it to them immediately.
Well, that's true. You usually can't keep it very long, that's for
Right.
sure. So this next one is near and dear to my heart. Who cooks better? Now, I have a feeling this is going to be a pretty heated debate.
I may have to, well, I said this the other day. I am great at cooking if I have a recipe to follow. Give me a recipe and I can make some pretty good dishes. But and then we disagree on what is cooking, because you do a lot of grilling, and I'm like, that's grilling, that's not cooking. That's different.
Anytime you apply heat to food, that's considered cooking,
Okay.
just so you know.
Well, we'll go with
But
that.
no, I definitely would take it, because a real good chef like myself, I usually just know what I need to do and don't need a recipe. I just make it happen. So
Well.
I'm going to take that one.
Okay. Well, let's hit one more of these.
Okay, which one do you want to take on?
Who's more adventurous?
Well, I think we're both pretty adventurous. I think that's one of the things that kind of attracts us to one another, and yeah. So I don't know. What's your thought?
Yeah, I think so. I think sometimes we don't have time to be adventurous, but I think anytime you're an entrepreneur, you have to be a little bit adventurous to take risk and plunges.
Well, we did have
things.
one more out there, which I think will spark some debate. But who is the better realtor?
Well, definitely me.
Oh,
Duh.
I don't know about that. I think I've got more great reviews than you probably ever even thought about getting.
You know, I think we definitely each have our qualities. But you know what's funny to me is this is why people need a realtor, even when you are a realtor, is because we are both guilty of when we're selling or buying a property personally. It seems like usually one of us has a deeper connection or attachment to something, and then we become not a good realtor anymore because we're too emotionally involved, and you need another person to come in and kind of help direct what needs to happen.
Great point. Well, hey, for those just now tuning in, we're here with Nick and Tara Limbird of Limbird Real Estate Group with our morning podcast. What's the podcast called for those that just tuned in?
It's Bird's Eye View Real Estate in Northwest Arkansas.
All righty, and we appreciate you tuning in. So one thing we do like to do on our show is do a team member shout out.
Yes.
So who are we going to talk about this week?
Well, you know what? Since we talked about his baby, we might as well talk about him. Let's give a little shout out to Brad Aldrain.
All right. Now, Brad's been with us for close to 3 years now, isn't it?
Yeah, I think something like
Getting
that.
close?
Yes. Yeah, and
Yeah.
he's got an interesting background because he's also he was as an attorney. That's what he went to school to do, and he's got that entrepreneurial spirit as well because he even bought and started a taxi company in Northwest Arkansas, of all things, and then ended up finding his way into real estate. So he's another example of someone with that entrepreneurial spirit. And Brad, we love. Like I said, he's an attorney, so we love arguing with Brad because he likes to argue.
And he likes to argue,
yes,
too. But
for
what
sure.
attorney doesn't? But now, Brad brings a lot of experience having that law background, be a great attribute to his clients. So
Yeah,
anyhow.
no, for sure. So we're going to go and get started with that main topic, and it's going to be how to choose a real estate agent for listing your home, because not all agents are created equal. So there are a lot of good things to go over. So just to kind of hit on some of those is definitely experience. I mean,
Sure.
I think then because we're specifically talking about listing your home, the difference, in my opinion, on finding a realtor between listing a home and buying a home is when you're buying a home, most of the time buying a home is somewhat of a fun experience. So you usually want someone that you can build rapport with and that you like to be around. where selling your home is almost more of a business transaction. You want somebody who can get you the most amount of money or under whatever terms are most important to you. So it's a little bit more transactional, where you want to make sure it's a job interview. Who can you find that you can plug in that's going to do the best job?
Sure.
And a lot of that is experience.
Sure. No, well, and one of the things I think that's mind-blowing to me is experience and how little people, I've been on probably hundreds of listing appointments, maybe even 1,000 plus listing appointments. And it's surprising how few of people, when they're interviewing an agent to list their home, actually ask and go a little bit deeper about the experience. One of the things that we've got here in Northwest Arkansas is the real estate market is good. And we have a massive influx of agents who don't have a lot of experience, that probably have been in the business less than 2 years, probably makes up, I'd say, close to 25, maybe 30% of the business.
And when the average agent's only doing a handful of transactions a year, and that's why experience matters. Yes, you have to pass a test to get into real estate. You have to go to 60 hours of schooling. There are books, there are, I'm sure, YouTube videos and everything else. But it's the experience. It's going through the trials and tribulations.
Being in the trenches and
yes,
going to war
that's
day
where you're
in,
going
day
to
out.
learn.
And, a lot of times people talk about the experience factor, but we found a lot of times, a lot of these people are not even doing real estate. They do it kind of as a hobby.
Right,
or
they have another full-time job.
Yeah, or a part-time job, and they're kind of double dipping in two different industries. And that can be a little bit of a potential danger because they're not looking out for your best investment.
Right. And going back to that experience, I always compare it to like getting, brain surgery or heart surgery. Do you want a surgeon who does a handful of them a year, or do you want a surgeon who does hundreds of them a year? So it's just, that's because most people, their home is their biggest investment.
Absolutely.
So you need to make sure you're doing your homework to put it in the best hands.
It's very important. We don't want anybody taking it for granted. And that leads us to another topic. A lot of times what we find is a lot of agents, because the market is good, they're really busy right now. I can't tell you how many times we hear people going, hey, I've tried to call this person, that agent, this agent, and nobody will answer the phone or return my call. And that doesn't mean they're bad agents, but a lot of times agents are not real good with following back up because they're kind of spread thin. And that's where you need to really make sure you got somebody that's going to give you the full attention. And also, that's where a real estate team can come into play. There's
For sure.
a lot of valuable assets that they can bring based on that.
Well, like you said, a lot of real estate agents, they're good agents, but when in real estate, you wear a ton of hats. I just can't express that enough as how many hats that you wear. And so when you're wearing all those hats, then you can't do all things well. And so some things are going to you're going to have stress fractures. Things are going to fall through the cracks. But having a team where you've developed systems and a company, you're running a company here, so your clients don't feel slighted when you're out showing someone else property or at a listing appointment. They could still get through and get questions answered and be happy.
Sure. Great point. Great point.
Another thing is, not just experience, but even narrowing down that experience. Northwest Arkansas is a good example for this. There are agents who are, that maybe they live in Bentonville and someone has a house for sale in Fayetteville. And there are some agents that just go, you know what, I don't know really the Fayetteville market very well. Oddly enough, each town here has a little bit of a different feel and a little different vibe. And so, asking the questions, hey, my house is in Fayetteville. How many homes have you sold in this Fayetteville area? Or even the price point. Maybe it's $1 million home, or maybe it's a $100,000 home. Excuse me, is that you need to ask those questions because the marketing that you do based off each property is a little different. And then how to go out and find that buyer for that property is going to be a little bit different depending on the price point.
Great point. And you mentioned a key word there too, marketing and marketing plan. That's something that most agents don't really do that wonderful a job. Right now, a lot of agents' job is, because the market's good, is to put it in the multi-list system, put a sign in the yard, and hope like heck it sells. And that's working a little bit right now, but that leads us into another problem where that's where that experience comes back into place. And just because you get a house under contract, that's where a lot of it kicks in because you've got to negotiate through the inspection and repair process. And that's a lot of times where a transaction in a home will fall apart and potentially terminate. Right now, we're seeing about 1 in 5 homes in this market across our industry terminating. So you got to think that's 20%, which is an extraordinarily high number. And I think a lot of that's because the market's good, but I think it's also we're seeing a lot of agents that aren't real well versed in negotiating and kind of working through those hurdles and obstacles during the transaction. And in turn, even working through them, they can also not negotiate as well and cost their clients more money. Everybody looks at what they get and getting the highest price, which makes great sense, but there's so much more that goes into it with negotiating that.
Right. If you never get to the closing table, who cares what you sold your house for?
Well, and if somebody's going, oh, they'll give you $3,000, to put towards repairs, but if somebody's a good negotiator, they may get it to $500 or $750, and
right.
That's where they may leave $2,000, $2,500 on the table. That at the end of the day, that goes back to your client. So experience and being battle tested really comes into play here.
For sure. Well, you mentioned how much money a seller would get, and a lot of that is based off the list price. So you need to work with an agent who knows how to correctly price your home. And that goes both ways. Sometimes there are times where we see people like, wow, they way underestimated what they could have sold this property for, so they've left money on the table. But it's also just as dangerous to overprice your property and it not sell, especially in a market like this that's a really strong seller's market, and you overprice it, and let's say in a few months there is a little bit of a bubble that burst and you lost the opportunity to sell your home because you were overshooting it.
No, that's a great point. And that's what we see a lot of times is a lot of people tell that potential seller the price they want to hear, not necessarily what it is, because what they're hoping to do is hook them and reel them in. But, we've always got a saying of, hey, I'd rather be upfront and honest and versus disappoint you down the road. And too many times we see agents wanting that business and they tell that seller whatever they want. And like you mentioned, a month goes by, 2 months, maybe 3 months. We've seen 6, 7 months in some instances in markets as well. And all of a sudden, that house that was a great house that if priced properly from the get-go would have sold in a very reasonable time. And 4 months later, they're sitting on the market. The buyers are starting to go, hang on, what's going on with this house here? Why hasn't it sold? Or you start doing multiple price reductions, and all of a sudden you're kind of behind the curve, and it becomes a slippery slope where had they set the table right up front, they would have been a lot better off.
For sure, because then once the house sits on the market for a long time, buyers feel like, wow, now I'm in a position to negotiate.
Absolutely.
And where if you priced it correctly to begin with, you could have received multiple offers on your property, potentially even for more than the list price, which would have been much better than chasing the market down with price reductions than hoping to get an offer.
Sure.
Which, speaking of multiple offers, because our market is strong right now, you want to make sure that you have an agent who has experience at handling multiple offers, because there are so many factors to take into consideration. A lot of people might think the only consideration is, well, which one is the most money? But there's so many other factors as far as, I had one today, we wrote an offer for a buyer and willing to pay full price, but guess what? That seller said, you know what? That's not as important to me as the closing date. I'm buying another home. I need someone to be flexible with me to make sure this property gets closed. So really digging and asking those questions.
And another great example in that multiple offer situation is a lot of times if you're representing that seller, let's say they have 4 or 5 offers, which is not that uncommon in certain price ranges of homes. And you might negotiate something where you go, hey, we definitely want a good, strong offer, but maybe you can talk that buyer's agent and that buyer to potentially waive the inspection, which that can, or not request repairs. That can save some tremendous amount of money. Or potentially, because the market's kind of high right now, we're seeing prices and sometimes not appraising. They may be willing to waive that appraisal. And all of a sudden you position your seller to be in a very advantageous position.
Right.
But a lot of agents aren't that savvy and can't work the system as well as others can. And that gets back to the experience thing that we've mentioned several times here on the show. But that's one of those that there's more to it, like you mentioned, than just the price. You've got to look at it from start to finish. And that's when you put that whole deal, it's a great transaction or it's not.
Definitely. Well, and then an agent that can also look at your home and help you determine what's worth it in terms of time and dollars to do to your home to make it show at its absolute best so you do get the top dollar for your home. Sure. There may be a few repairs that need to be done, or there may be things that you're like, I've been thinking about gutting the bathroom. And we look at it and go, well, you're going to spend $7,000, but I think you're only going to get $5,000 back. Okay, it's not worth it. Let's not mess with it. So there's just, having someone who can help you and, hey, let me help you staging. We have someone on our team that used to even own a staging company. So it's great to have that resource to just, let me take what you already have and help you figure out how to position it to really show off the amenities of your home.
Sure. And you touched on a great point. I can't tell you how many times being on listing appointments we have sellers go, hey, I want to put some money into here. Do you think this is a good return on investment? And I typically tell them, if I can't get you close to 100% return on investment plus, it's probably not.
Right.
A lot of times, like you mentioned, somebody remodeling a bathroom. Bathrooms are always a great, return on investment. Now, if you're going to go, hey, should I, do this or that? There's going to be a few things that go, nah, I probably wouldn't
Right.
do that, because you're not going to probably see maybe a 50% or potentially less return on there. So that's where, getting back to a lot of agents just telling people what they want to say. They go, hey, I'm just going to try to position this as best I can, but they're already costing that seller money potentially, and they haven't even actually got the house on the market yet.
Right. Well, and the thing is too, is if someone is looking for, what do I need to do to the home to get it ready to sell, because I want to put it on the market the next couple months, that's one thing. But sometimes we have people that come to us and say, hey, I'm going to be selling in 2 to 5 years. I've been thinking about renovating the bathroom. Sometimes even if you can't get dollar for dollar, but you're going to be there long enough that you reap the rewards of that, then sometimes it can be worth it.
Sure. Well, we need to kind of start wrapping up this topic, but just kind of in recap for those that are just now tuning in, Nick and Tara Limbird, Limbird Real Estate Group. And if we had to kind of summarize talking about the best ways to choose a listing agent, what would be your 3 bullet points that you would give advice to somebody?
Well, first of all, I actually have all these on a document, so I'd be more than willing to share them with anybody. So just email me, tara@limbirdteam.com, or go to our website, limbirdteam.com. But I think ideally is you want experience. I would have someone who has reviews and testimonials from past clients, because an agent can tell you anything wonderful they want to say about themselves, but it's their past clients and what they have to say about them.
And if somebody has a lot of reviews, there's a good chance they've done quite a bit of business, where
For sure.
somebody else, if they have 1 or 2, they probably haven't done as much, or
Right.
they haven't taken that good of care of their clients where they didn't feel the need to give them a review.
And this will sound sort of strange, but I actually think it's good for someone, as long as they have enough reviews, for them to have a few bad ones, because otherwise you start to wonder, is this fake? Did they just get my grandma to give a review or whatever? Because we all know, unfortunately, sometimes things go wrong and you just can't please everybody. But you also want to see how did the company, or how did that agent step up and resolve a situation that maybe got sideways.
Sure, that's a great point. Selling a home can be very stressful, and you've got money involved, of course, but then also the coordination of getting everything handled and moving out. It does add some stress, and so sometimes it can be a little difficult for some people, and tempers flare. But
Yes.
that's where hopefully you can kind of work with those people, and,
Right.
and experience will take over a little bit.
And that's why you need an agent in general. Like I just said, even when we are realtors, and even when we buy and sell real estate, we need the help a lot of times of another licensed agent who's outside of the emotional aspect of buying and selling property, because it does. I never forget my first broker. When I wrote an offer, at the very bottom I saw someone could accept the offer, they could counter the offer, or they could reject it. And I said, why in the world would anybody reject it? Why wouldn't you at least just counter back at full price? And he chuckled. He goes, oh boy, do you have a lot to learn about real estate. Because people get emotionally involved and like, by gosh, I don't care what they offer now. I'm not selling my property to that person. So it's just funny how life in real estate works. And that was advice that was well received, and I've never forgotten that.
Sure. Well, that's going to wrap up our show for the day. We appreciate you guys tuning in.
Yeah.
Once again, Nick and Tara Limbird, Limbird Real Estate Group.
Bird's Eye View, real estate in Northwest Arkansas, and we have a great show for next week as well. We're going to be talking about the latest and greatest, newest trends in technology in your home.
Oh, that's right up my alley.
Yes,
I love all
you're
the
gonna
bells
love
and
that
whistles.
one.
So,
And
thank
this
you for
may cost
joining in,
Yeah.
and we'll see you next week, same time.
That's right. See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.